Let's talk about something truly transformative. If you really take this in, I promise you, you won't be the same after this. It's not just about listening, it's about understanding at a deep level that changes everything. Now let's dive in. Everything you think, feel, and do is an expression of your consciousness. Your mind and your body are intimately connected. They're not separate. Your body is the unconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between an actual experience that creates an emotion and an emotion that you fabricate by thought alone. To the body, it's all the same. This means that your thoughts have a direct impact on your body. Every thought produces a biochemical reaction in the brain. The brain then sends a signal to your body, and your body responds by generating a corresponding emotion. If you keep thinking the same thoughts, making the same choices, demonstrating the same behaviors, and feeling the same emotions, your body becomes addicted to that cycle. It's like a program. You're literally being run by your past. But here's the kicker. The body doesn't want to change. It's conditioned to be in a certain way. And anytime you try to change, the body sends signals back to the brain saying, this feels uncomfortable, this feels unfamiliar, this doesn't feel right. It's trying to keep you in the familiar, even if that familiar isn't serving you. That's where the challenge lies. To break this cycle, you have to overcome your body. You have to become aware of these unconscious patterns and begin to change them. This is where your conscious mind comes into play. Now think about this. Every time you have a thought, that thought produces a biochemical reaction in the brain. That's the thought sending a signal to your body. Now the body is feeling a certain way, which then sends a signal back to the brain, and we get caught in this feedback loop. If your thoughts are the language of the brain and your feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and feel creates your state of being, then the question is, how do you change your state of being? How do you change the way you think and feel? Because if you can do that, you can change your life. You see, most people wait for something outside of them to change how they feel inside. They're waiting for their life to change, for something to happen so they can feel better. But that's living by the Newtonian model of reality, which is about cause and effect. The quantum model of reality is about causing an effect. This means you have to feel the feeling of your future in the present moment, even before it manifests. This isn't about wishful thinking. This is about changing your state of being. It's about becoming conscious of your unconscious thoughts and behaviors and replacing them with new thoughts and behaviors. It's about becoming familiar with a new state of being. Let's break this down even further. The brain and the heart work together, and when they are in coherence, you create a powerful electromagnetic field. This field is like a signal you send out into the quantum field. If your thoughts and emotions are coherent, they're going to carry a specific message into the field. And that message is going to resonate with a potential in the quantum field that matches your intention. This is the vibrational match. When there's a vibrational match between your energy and that potential, you draw that experience to you. But it's not just about thinking positively or feeling good for a few minutes. It's about maintaining that state of being consistently. It's about embodying the energy of your future self, the person you want to become. When you do this, you're no longer living in the past, you're living in the future. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, your body gets so used to this new state of being that it becomes the new normal. Your body actually begins to believe that the future event has already happened, and now you're in a state of receiving. You've become a magnet for what you want to attract into your life. Think of it like this. If you're broadcasting a signal into the field, and that signal is clear, it's going to be received by something that matches it. If the signal is weak or inconsistent, it's not going to have the same effect. So the key here is to maintain a high level of coherence between your mind and your heart. This is where the practice comes in. It's not just about sitting in meditation and thinking about what you want. It's about embodying it, feeling it, living it, and practicing it every single day. Let's take this concept of coherence a bit further. Coherence in the brain and the heart is measurable. When your brain and heart are in coherence, you're in a state of optimal functioning. You're more creative, more intuitive, more connected, and more in tune with the energy around you. This state of coherence is what allows you to access deeper levels of consciousness and to connect with the quantum field. This is where real change happens. This is where you start to see the effects of your inner work reflected in your outer world. But here's where most people get tripped up. They start to doubt. They start to wonder if it's really working. They start to get impatient, and that's when they lose the coherence. They fall back into old patterns of thinking and feeling, and they get the same results they've always gotten. This is why it's so important to stay consistent. You have to trust the process. You have to believe that what you're doing is working, even if you don't see immediate results. It's like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You water it, you nurture it, you give it sunlight, and you trust that it will grow in its own time. The same is true for your desires. You plant the seed in the quantum field. You nurture it with your thoughts and emotions, and you trust that it will manifest in its own time. And here's the beautiful part. When you stay in this state of coherence, when you live in the energy of your future self, the universe has no choice but to match that energy. It's a law. It has to happen. The only thing that can get in the way is your own doubt, your own fear, your own impatience. So the key is to stay in the energy of your future, to feel it, to live it, and to trust that it's on its way. Let's take a moment to talk about the role of elevated emotions in creating the life you want. Elevated emotions are incredibly important, and here's why. They're the fuel that powers your intentions. Think of your intentions as a car. No matter how well designed or powerful the car is, it won't go anywhere without fuel. In this case, your thoughts are like the car, and your emotions are the fuel that makes it move. Elevated emotions are feelings like love, joy, gratitude, and excitement. These are the emotions that lift you up, that make you feel alive and connected to something greater than yourself. When you experience these kinds of emotions, they give life to your thoughts. They're what make your thoughts more powerful and more likely to manifest in your reality. Without elevated emotions, your thoughts don't have the same impact. Imagine trying to start a fire without a spark. No matter how much wood or paper you have, if there's no spark, the fire won't start. The emotion is the spark that ignites the thought and sends it out into the quantum field, the energy field that connects everything in the universe. This is where the real magic happens. Your thoughts alone are important, but they need the power of elevated emotions to truly come to life. The higher the emotion, the more powerful the signal you send out into the universe. Let's break this down a bit more. When you feel strong, positive emotions like love or gratitude, your body and mind enter a state of harmony. Your heart beats in a more coherent rhythm, and your brain waves become more synchronized. This creates a powerful energy that you send out into the universe. The universe responds to this energy, bringing you experiences that match the frequency of the emotions you're feeling. On the other hand, if your emotions are low or negative, like fear, doubt, or anger, the signal you send out is weaker. It's like trying to start that fire with a damp match. The energy isn't strong enough to ignite your thoughts and turn them into reality. This is why it's so important to cultivate elevated emotions, to consciously choose to feel positive, uplifting feelings, even when things around you might not be perfect. So how do you cultivate these elevated emotions? One way is through the power of imagination. Close your eyes and picture yourself living the life you desire. Imagine it in as much detail as possible. What does it look like? How does it feel? As you do this, allow yourself to really feel the emotions that come with this vision. Feel the joy, the excitement, the gratitude, as if it's already happening. The more you can feel these emotions, the more powerful your signal becomes. Another way to elevate your emotions is by practicing gratitude. Take a few moments each day to think about what you're grateful for. It could be something as simple as the warmth of the sun on your face or the smile of a loved one. Gratitude is one of the most powerful elevated emotions you can feel. When you're in a state of gratitude, you're telling the universe that you appreciate what you have and that you're open to receiving more. But it's not just about feeling good, it's about feeling the specific emotions that match your intention. If you want to manifest abundance, you need to feel abundant. If you want to manifest love, you need to feel love. If you want to manifest health, you need to feel healthy. And you need to feel these emotions as if the manifestation has already happened. This is what aligns your energy with the energy of your desired outcome. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you start to feel these elevated emotions, your body begins to produce a magnetic field. This field is measurable, and it can extend several feet outside your body. This field is what attracts your desires to you. It's like a magnet. The stronger the field, the stronger the attraction. So the question is, how do you generate these elevated emotions? The answer is simple. You practice. You practice feeling the emotions of your future self every single day. You practice feeling grateful for the things you want before they manifest. You practice feeling the joy, the love, the abundance, the health as if it's already here. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, it becomes your new state of being. Let's talk about the final piece of the puzzle when it comes to creating the life you want, letting go of the how. This is one of the most important steps, but it's also one of the hardest for most people. So what does it mean to let go of the how? It means that you stop worrying about how your dreams and desires will come true. You stop trying to figure out every detail and plan every step. Instead, you trust that the universe knows the best way to bring your desires to you. Now, this doesn't mean you should just sit around doing nothing. It's important to take inspired action when the time is right, but it's equally important to trust that the universe is working behind the scenes in ways you might not see or understand. You don't have to know exactly how things will unfold. You don't have to have all the answers. In fact, trying to control every detail can actually get in the way of the universe bringing you what you want. This is where the idea of surrender comes in. Surrender doesn't mean giving up on your dreams or desires. It doesn't mean you stop caring about what you want. Instead, it means you let go of the need to control every aspect of the process. You trust that the universe has your back. You trust that everything is happening exactly as it should, even if it doesn't always seem like it. When you surrender, you're saying to the universe, I trust you. I trust that you know what's best for me. I'm open to whatever comes my way. This doesn't mean you won't face challenges or obstacles. It doesn't mean everything will always go according to your plan. But it does mean that you trust the process and you trust that everything is unfolding in the best possible way, even if you can't see it in the moment. Letting go of the how can feel scary because it requires you to step into the unknown. It requires you to have faith that things will work out, even if you don't know how or when. But this is where the magic happens. When you let go and trust, you open yourself up to new possibilities that you might not have considered. You allow the universe to surprise you in ways you never imagined. Think of it like this. Imagine you're on a road trip and you're using a GPS to get to your destination. You don't need to know every single turn or road you'll take before you start the journey. You just follow the directions as they come, trusting that the GPS will guide you to where you need to go. If you try to figure out the entire route beforehand, you might get overwhelmed or confused. But if you trust the GPS and follow its instructions, you'll get to your destination, even if the route isn't what you expected. The universe works in a similar way. You might have a general idea of where you want to go in life, but you don't need to know every single step of the journey. You don't need to have all the answers right now. Trust that the universe is like your GPS, guiding you along the way. Sometimes the path might take unexpected twists and turns, but if you trust the process, you'll get to where you need to be. It's also important to remember that the universe's timing is often different from our own. We might want something to happen right now, but the universe might have a different plan. Trusting in the universe means trusting in its timing. It means understanding that things will happen when they're meant to, not necessarily when we want them to. When you let go of the how, you open yourself up to infinite possibilities. You allow the universe to bring you something even better than what you imagined. You step into the unknown with trust and faith, knowing that the universe is conspiring in your favor. So, let's bring this all together. Your thoughts create your reality. Your emotions give life to your thoughts. Your coherence between your mind and heart is the key to manifesting your desires. And your trust in the process allows the universe to work its magic. When you combine all of these elements, you become a powerful creator. You become the architect of your own reality. You gotta go, body, you're not the mind, I'm the mind right now. You're gonna sit here, I'm gonna feed you, you're gonna get your coffee, you're going to do all those things, but right now, this is my time. You're going to obey me, right? So now the body's no longer the mind, you're the mind. And so when it wants to get up and you become aware of it, you return back to the present moment. Every time you do, that's a victory. And you're changing some aspect of yourself. So then ask yourself, I do this all the time. Write down 4 thoughts that you're going to stay conscious of the whole day. I can't, it's too hard. You'd be surprised the moment you become conscious of what those thoughts are, how unconscious you've been to them all day, all for weeks on end. Write down what you speak, how you speak, 4 things you want to change, how you act. How do you act? Do you complain? Do you blame? Do you make excuses? Do you feel sorry for yourself? That's a victim consciousness. What emotions do you live by? Is it possible that you're so used to living by guilt you don't even know it's guilt, it just feels like you? Do you allow your energy to drop? Become conscious of those states of mind and body and review them and say, this is the old self. Then say, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain? And start firing and wiring and start feeling it. What behaviors will I demonstrate today? What choices will I make? One day, one lifetime. Just like you did, rehearse them. Rehearse the whole entire thing. Begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain. And if you keep installing it, the hardware is going to become a software program, and you're going to start thinking and acting that way. And then here's the tough part. Can you teach your body emotionally what your future is going to feel like before it's made manifest? And don't get up until you feel that way. Now practice that for a few days and then see if you can stay in that state and watch all of a sudden all those weird doors start opening for you. Synchronicities, whatever they are. Number 2, take time at the end of your day before you lay down and give thanks for your life. Feel gratitude and really teach your body what it feels like. The emotional signature of gratitude. Gratitude means you're getting something. If I give you something that's of value, you would say thank you because you would feel it, right? So when you're receiving, you're giving thanks. So gratitude is the ultimate state of receiving. So then people only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to their emotional state. So if you're in a state of gratitude, every thought's gonna make it right down into your body. If you're saying, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, and your body's programmed the negativity, it's saying, no, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not, thought's going to stop right here. So as you elevate your state, there are about 100-200 different chemical reactions that go on in the body that begin to restore and repair the body in a state of gratitude. And so we've done the research to prove that. 10 minutes and just feel it with all of your heart. That's it. The third thing, and very important, take time. Whenever it is, sit down, close your eyes, and begin to just open your awareness to the space around you and just sense it and pay attention to it and become more aware of it. The act of opening your awareness begins to reduce the stress hormones and creates more coherent brainwave states. I'm doing it right now. It's just a practice. It's just a practice. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Most of our thoughts and feelings come from our past experiences. They come from our memories. In fact, your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of all the things you've learned and experienced to date. It's an artifact. And when you have an experience, when you're in the midst of an experience, all of your five senses plug you into the external environment. And as your brain is processing all of this vital sensory data, all of that information rushes back to the brain, and when it reaches the brain, it causes jungles of neurons to organize themselves into networks, to string into patterns, to reflect their interaction with their external environment. The moment those neurons organize into patterns, the brain makes a chemical, and that chemical is called a feeling or an emotion. And so experiences tend to create more long-term memories because it patterns or stamps or embosses networks of neurons into very specific patterns. And then the emotional quotient helps us to remember the event. So we learn something new intellectually. We also cause networks of neurons to form. The Nobel Prize laureate Kandel in the year 2000 found that when people learn just one bit of information, they double the number of connections in their brain from 1,300 connections to 2,600 connections. So if they didn't review that information or repeat it, the connections pruned apart. So we know then that learning semantic information begins to organize circuitry in the brain, and experiences enrich the brain. The end product of experience, of course, is the emotion, and it causes us to feel certain ways. You can remember where you were on 9/11. You can tell me who you were with, what time of day it was, what you were doing, because whatever you were seeing in that moment or hearing in that moment changed how you were feeling. And the moment you felt altered or you felt differently, significantly, your brain perked up and you paid attention to whatever caused that. And that event in and of itself is called a memory. So then most of our thoughts and feelings tend to be within the neural circuitry of the past and the emotions of the past chemically. So if you take a thought, thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and how you feel creates a state of being. So if you combine a thought and a feeling, a thought and a feeling, a thought and a feeling, and you have a series of good thoughts that are connected to a series of good feelings, that cycle of thinking and feeling creates what's called an attitude. If you have a series of negative thoughts that are connected to some pretty bad feelings, you'll say, I have a pretty bad attitude today. So if how you think and how you feel creates a state of being, then attitudes are just shortened states of being. You feel good in the morning, you feel bad in the afternoon. If you take an attitude, an attitude, an attitude, and you begin to string attitudes together, when you combine an attitude, an attitude, an attitude, you start to form what's called beliefs. Now, a belief is just a thought you keep thinking over and over again until you hardwire it in your brain. And because beliefs are based on past experiences, then the very boundaries of our beliefs are how we feel. And so when our beliefs get challenged, it typically doesn't feel right. I know from the research that we've done that the redundancy of thinking and feeling and thinking over time, for example, a person has an insecure thought, then they feel insecure. The moment they feel insecure, they think more insecure thoughts. They fire and wire more circuits in their brain to feel more chemicals of insecurity. And then once they're feeling insecure, they think more insecure thoughts. And they do this over and over again. Right on the other side of your fear is courage. Right on the other side of your sadness is joy. It's the same energy. It's just trapped in the body. And when you stretch yourself past that point and you break free from the chains of those emotional addictions, the side effect of that is called joy. And the body is liberated from that level of mind. And when that happens, there's available energy to create with. And so when you break through that, you begin to love yourself. You begin to respect yourself. And you begin to love and respect others because you see yourself in them. And now that you're free from it, you can understand them with compassion without knee-jerking in the same way. So the difficulty here is really making the time to do it. And if you began to think about a new way of being and you moved into a state where you said, I'm not going to get up until I am this person. And not only did you memorize it neurologically in your brain, but you allowed the thoughts that you were thinking to become the experience to the point that your body, as the unconscious mind, began to live in that future reality in the present moment. And when you got up, when mind and body were working together in that state of being, and you said, I'm going to maintain the state of being my entire day, and I don't care. Bring on the challenges, because I want to test my greatness. And you did that the entire day. The end of your day, when you finished your day, more than likely you'd have more energy than when you started. The literal translation of the word meditation in Tibetan means to become familiar with. The symbol means to become familiar with. So if you're becoming conscious of or familiar with your unconscious self to the point you're so conscious of your unconscious thoughts, so familiar with your unconscious habits, and so aware of your emotions that you would never let them go by unnoticed by you. There's no chance for you to return back to the old self, to know thyself. So people wake up in the morning and they start thinking about their problems. And those problems are memories in the brain that are connected to certain people and certain things at certain times and places. So they wake up in the morning and they start thinking in the past. Now, the moment they start having those thoughts, every one of those experiences has an emotion associated with it. So when they start thinking about their problems or the problems of the world or the problems of their body or whatever it is, problems at work, they all of a sudden start to feel the correlated emotion. So now their body's in the past. So now people then get caught up in an emotion, they reaffirm their identity, they could wake up in the morning and feel nothing at all. And then all of a sudden they say, well, wait a second, I've got to get back to myself. So they start thinking about their problems, and here come the emotions. And they say, oh, now I feel like me again. So those emotions then begin to influence our thoughts. Like if you feel like a failure, you're going to think you're a failure. And when you think you're a failure, you're going to feel like a failure. And when you feel like a failure, you're going to think more thoughts equal to being a failure. And the cycle of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking causes you to say, I am a failure. And the repetition of that process of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking conditions the body to become the mind of that emotion. Now the emotion is stored in the body. Now the body's literally in the past. And the body, as the unconscious mind, doesn't know the difference between the actual experience that's creating the emotion and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone. Your body's believing it's in the same experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So then getting people out of the past is the work. So then they wake up in the morning after they reaffirm who they are, and they can't think greater than how they feel. They're in the familiar past. So if you're in the familiar past, you're going to do the things that reaffirm the emotions of your predictable future. So you wake up in the morning, you check your WhatsApp, you check your text, you check your Twitter, you tweet, you check your Facebook, you check your email, you check the news. Now you are really connected to everything that's known in your life. And then you run through a series of routine behaviors. You move around your house the same way you always do. You do all the same things. You go to the same grocery store, you buy the same food, you shop the same way, you do all these, you watch the same TV shows, and people do this for 10, 20, 30 years. Now their body's on autopilot, and their body's dragging them into a predictable future based on what they did in the past. You could actually take their yesterday and lift it up and set it on their tomorrow, which means then they've lost their free will to a program. So now the familiar past and the predictable future is called the known. There's only one place that you have to train a person to be so that they're not in the known, they're in the unknown, and that's called the present moment. So people get very happy being unhappy because they would rather cling to their unhappiness than take a chance in possibility. So stepping into that river and beginning to make a new choice and understanding that uncertainty, that unpredictability is the unknown. Now you're in that river of change, and it is the neurological, the biological, the chemical, hormonal, genetic death of the old self. People say to me, well, if there's uncertainty, I can't predict my future. And I always say the same thing. The best way to predict your future is to create it, not in the known, right there. That uncertainty, you can learn now how to regulate your state instead of living in fear, because the idea that things are going to get worse, the idea that you can't predict, the idea of being uncertain or can't control something actually sets off the stress response. So now you're in the unknown, and this survival gene is switched on. Of course, people are going out of the infinite possibilities that exist in the quantum field. They're going to select the worst scenario in their mind, right? So then what if you're in the unknown and you understand that, and now you can work back into that present moment, and you say, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain, put my attention behind? What behaviors today, one day? What behaviors do I want to demonstrate? And the act of closing your eyes and mentally rehearsing who you're going to be when you open your eyes begins to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like you've already done it. Now the brain is no longer a record of the past.